We each get our own camera.
It's good to be back. For crying out loud, it's a new year, it's a new day, it's a new life, and I'm feeling good. Isn't that how it goes?
It's good to be front, too.
Yeah, it's Curtain Call with Eric Ball.
It's good to be on top, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Just start with that?
No, it means like on top of the world.
You go, it's good to be on top of it. You start with that comment?
Yeah, well, Happy New Year.
I guess.
Start the year right with an innuendo.
That's right.
I think so.
That's an innuendo.
That there's an innuendo.
Hey, we each have our own camera today. This is fantastic.
Well, you know, I wanted to start by talking about Sweeney Todd, and here's the thing. I was just going to say that I'm looking forward to watching it because Glenn Heath is a consummate magician's hat of surprises. Again, he comes walking in, he has a Glenn cam on.
Well, you know, we've been, and I've been gone since close to Thanksgiving with various projects, but I picked up a cheap little $20 action cam, you know, like put it on your bike or your helmet, and so I look entirely stupid when you see me on YouTube. But I've got the what Glenn sees perspective.
You know what you look like? You look like the Borg.
I look like a tool.
You look like the Borg. Resistance is futile. Yeah. And if that paints me a nerd, I'm a nerd.
You know, I have some very close friends, Anita B. and Sandy.
Shout out to Anita. She
was in the experience, and our friends Paul Mattingly. And
yeah, a lot of people were.
Michael Close.
Yeah.
Was as well.
And I think Lysander.
I love the fact that Brent Spiner, when in an interview, he talked about the fact that he hated the fact that they always pronounced it resistance as futile.
And it's futile.
The word is futile. And so when he gets taken over by the board, when he finally gets
he finally says futile.
He says futile. And he said that it was actually a fight with the director over the fact that they wanted him to say futile for consistency, and he was like, that's not the word. If I'm an android, I'm programmed to say it correctly, I'm going to say futile.
That's actually pretty cool. Brent Spiner's a badass. I'm sorry, that's all there is to it.
What's he doing these days?
He did some Broadway.
We should get him on the show.
He did some Broadway. He was in Sunday in the Park with George, the original Broadway cast.
Was he really?
He was, yeah, he was the Frenchman.
I know he was in 1776 at one point.
Yeah. Everybody was in 1776 at some point. But, well, welcome to Curtain Call. I'm Eric Ball, and with me is Glenn Heath and Sean Critchfield.
Happy 2013.
Yeah, right? I mean, what a freaking holiday season and New Year's. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I had a soiree of scheduling that I had to do. I mean, I come from a divorced family that lives in Michigan, so it's like when we go home and visit, it's like...
Just going to Michigan's bad enough.
Yeah, 8:45 in the morning, we're here. 8:47 in the morning, we're here. You know, it's like planned out.
Where did you have to, where in Michigan?
Jackson, Michigan.
Where's that in relation? My family
here,
lives
well, let me
in
show you.
Flint
Let me show you
and,
the mitten. It's down here. It's down here somewhere.
Okay. But towards Ann Arbor?
I would say about 30 minutes, 45 minutes away from Ann Arbor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but down south, on the border, kind of hugging the border of Ohio a little bit. But
the tropic version of the tropic area of Michigan.
It's so funny because we brought our little Chihuahua dog with us, and he is not used to cold like they have it there.
Well, the thing was probably shaking.
He was.
You get off the plane in Michigan, and the thing's. Good Lord.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I will cease to comment.
But yeah, I mean, we had to take a couple weeks off because, frankly, we were all out of town and we were all doing our own things, and you were in a show, and so I'm very glad to be back. What's that?
I don't know how to run the computer.
And he doesn't know how to run the computer. Which reminds me, I'm very glad that Sean's here. We're going to try to make him a more, for lack of a better word, permanent part of the function of what we do here.
We'll let him go home.
Well, he can't. He doesn't. He's not allowed to stay here.
We've already set up a cot in the corner. We talked about that.
Well, you're gonna have to kick Chris off of it. Then.
Yeah, but and that's thrilling for me because I admire him greatly as an artist and a director and as somebody who has a voice that is willing to be put out there and certainly one that's. You all should be willing to be heard because he's a very
well respected within the theater.
Yes, and so
thank you guys. Feeling is incredibly mutual.
Please.
Thrilled.
I've got a camera on my head. Nobody respects me.
I respect you because you have a camera on your head.
I like the camera. I think I thought it was a flashlight at first.
It is a flashlight as well. However, if I were to put the flashlight on at this point, I'd probably screw up my recordings.
Is that
I'm going to put this one in picture, so that those of you who like the Blair Witch Project concept of Curtain Call can enjoy the vomitous ride that will be the next 2 hours.
Nice.
I want to grab my camera and hold it in front of me and do the I'm sorry.
Here you go.
I'm so scared. Oh, Lord.
I just got a whiff of chocolate chip cookies and coffee.
Oh, by the way, my beloved wife, who is just amazing, I came out of a rehearsal at Faith Lutheran before coming here, and she put on my car, on my windshield, a little Tupperware thing of cookies. And so
they're mostly gone.
We are very happy now.
Thankfully, we have no guests today to have to share them.
And that reminds me, she's over. She's in a new adventure too. She's stage managing for Las Vegas Little Theaters, the Tale of the Allergist Wife.
Oh, very good.
And Steve McMillan's directing that one.
Now, Boing Boing opens up next week.
Yeah, next week?
Yes, because it does because Michael Drake, who's been Pirelli in Sweeney Todd, today was his last day. So I got to perform once with him, and Alex Mendoza takes over the role next Thursday. So.
Nice. Yes, January 11th through the 27th. Boing Boing.
Boing Boing.
By Mark Camilletti. And you know something? I only knew of this show when it was on Broadway. It got a lot of buzz when it was on Broadway.
I was trying to think of a Camelotti reference. I had none. I'm out of practice.
It's all right.
Where's the bell?
Here it is. You can have the bell.
Thank you.
But last week it was, or the week before it was "Run, Boy" was the reference.
Forrest Gump stuff.
Run,
Forrest,
run. But yeah, there's lots of stuff going on in the Valley currently. I always like to think that coming out of Christmas season and into the pre-spring season, there's kind of a lull. But not this year.
No. I mean,
there's a lot going on.
You've got Putnam Counting 25th annual Putnam Counting spell. You got Spelling Bee next, opening next weekend. Sweeney Todd reopened this Friday,
right,
for 2 more weeks. Boing Boing, and then right on the heels of that, A Clockwork Orange.
Yes.
And what's
they're casting? Something we'll probably touch on all of these eventually. But
and if we miss anything, check out our friends over at LV Taps, Lysander, Max, and Ben.
Oh, they do a great job.
They do a great job keeping up with all the various auditions.
And also, interestingly enough, mid-February is the 2-night in-house run of the Nevada Tales this year with Rainbow Company, the touring show that goes around all the schools.
Okay.
They do one.
Great.
They do one weekend of public performances. Is it There's a theater that's on 5th Street downtown. There's a. I'll get more information. I'm sure that next week we'll talk about it. But I'm in the tour this year.
Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Years and years and years ago, Karen gave me my first lead. As we talked about this, I played the Cowardly Lion, and I had mentioned to her in passing that if there was ever room on the tour for me, that I would love to do it. And she gave me a call and said, "Were you serious?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely." And so now we're in rehearsals right now, and it should be really, really fun. It's a whole revamped format.
Regional tour, like Utah,
no, just
or just Nevada.
It's in the past. It has gone to northern Nevada. It just depends on the bookings. Right now, I know that we're localized to this, Henderson and Las Vegas, and
well, they usually go to a lot of places, though.
Yes,
in the past they have, anyways.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they've gone as far up as
they used to do that.
Schools.
They used to go to the Reed Whipple Center, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Yeah, and then there's an awful lot of auditions coming up. Yeah, like for instance, Ragtag Entertainment. We got to keep our eyes open on Ragtag. They're doing this new concert series, this Broadway concert series.
Las Vegas Hotel.
Right, and no, Las Vegas Hilton. Is it Hilton or Hotel?
No, it's no longer the Hilton.
It's not called the Hilton?
Welcome to Las Vegas.
It's called Las Vegas Hotel.
It's Las Vegas Hotel.
Well, there you have it.
They had to figure out something because they couldn't change all the letters because the LVH is like really high up there on the tower. So
in Las Vegas, Hizzle didn't work out.
Yeah.
My Hizzle.
I'm sure that was on the short list.
My His house. Welcome to the Hizzle.
Las Vegas, his house.
The Las Vegas. His house. Oh my gosh. Anyways, they're doing Guys and Dolls concert season.
And,
so I guess they're
Les
making
Miserables.
And Les Mis, but Les Mis is coming in July. I don't know if they were auditioning for both at the same time.
I believe auditioning will incorporate for both. However, I'm sure if you are only interested in one, that will be an option to specify on the forms.
That's fantastic. Auditions are going to be this Wednesday, January 16th. And Thursday, January 17th at 7 p.m. They're at the Las Vegas Hotel, his house, showroom. That's 3000 Paradise Road, Las Vegas. They want you to prepare 32 clearly marked bars. Clearly, please. Please do not sing selections from either show. That's interesting. You know something, I found that, maybe we should talk about that. I always find it interesting
when we have no topic to talk about today.
when directors ask you specifically to audition with a song from the show or not so much. Anyways, we'll get back.
Well, and I believe if you're not
keep that on the short list there, and then we'll get back to it.
I'm pretty sure that Andrew will take video submissions.
Oh yeah.
In lieu of being there if you can't make it, because there's auditions coming up as well for Huntsman Entertainment doing Next to Normal and Phonics, which is in a couple of weeks. And
let me tell you, that's a show that everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to do.
I'm auditioning for it.
Yeah, it's a great show, and Steve Huntsman has a great reputation of putting out great work, and so I'm sure that's going to be very well attended as well.
And then what else? Urinetown is going to have auditions in February for the Nevada Conservatory.
I just had Urinetown up, which, by the way, that's another show that's underappreciated, if you ask me.
Well, and then we're right on the heels of Super Summer with Music Man, Legally Blonde, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and the producers. And then there's still yet another one. What's being done at LBLT that Troy's directing?
Irma Vep.
Irma Vep, thank you, gosh.
Yeah, Mystery of Irma Vep.
Oh my goodness.
And that's another one that's underappreciated. I know, right? I want to do it so bad. There's no way I can do it.
Well, there was a bit of a debacle with the Irma Vep thing where I was originally slated to direct it. And then there was a mix-up.
You guys didn't fight over dinner the other night?
No. He and I, we both know that we're going to rip each other off from time to time.
Sure.
We're just open about that. But no, like I think what happened is that they got confused with whether or not I was still interested, because it was right when I first was taking Tournament of Kings when the discussion happened. And so I think that through the rumor mill it was Sean's super busy, and it just never got confirmed to me that I absolutely could have done it. And then they had to pinch hit, and honestly, I had
hear that, Troy? You're a sub.
I honestly, what I was just going to say, actually, is that I honestly have a great idea for what I wanted to do with that. But if they were going to hand it off to anyone, the person that I would personally...
Oh, no, Troy's going to do great job.
Troy. If they said, if I had to turn it down, the name that I would give them is his. So.
And Troy, I'm sure if he has any need for input, I know he'll direct to you as well.
There's just so many good things going on right now. It's crazy. And then Las Vegas Little Theater in the summer is doing Xanadu. And can I tell you something?
I spoke to a set designer, and there are some interesting concepts that they're looking for a roller. I mean, we're going to have roller derby in the LVLT main stage theater.
All I got to say.
Like, I don't know how you're going to do this, or have the strength to be roller skating up towards the sound booth. But
wow.
Theater mashups. They should do, there's all these like hip hop and rap mashups, where they take the two different songs.
Yeah.
We should totally take that, and then afterwards we can do Xanadu and Starlight Express.
Aren't they the same?
Pretty much.
What I want to do is an alternative series of theater. Like do a whole series, and the play is like, what if Sweeney recognized his wife right away, came off the boat. Done.
Ooh, we could call it What If.
What if Annie's parents were really alive? Hey, we're back.
That's actually a really interesting concept.
Just do a whole series of shows that way.
That's funny. I like that. Did you know that there is a roller derby musical? Somebody sent me. I don't know what was going on, but it was when I was I first came on board with Signature Productions on the board of directors. I don't know. Somebody must have gone to my website and saw that I was on the board of directors or something and thought that it was a good pitch or whatever, but they pitched it pretty firmly in an email to me saying, you should really consider doing it. It's a brand new work out of LA. I'm a new playwright. I really stand by this. I'm hoping to get it workshopped and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's great. I was listening to it. Not very good, but the concept is fun. You know what I mean? It's this, and remember how
do you stage a roller derby?
Well, it's the same problem as Starlight Express. It has to begin, production-wise, it has to begin as a spectacle. You have to decompress it, I guess, because it has demands.
Decompress or deconstruct?
Deconstruct. I need to decompress. Is what it needs to happen. But deconstruct it from this fact.
Your instincts were right.
you have certain demands that you must fulfill. Right. I mean, I would love. I mean, Starlight Express. You can call me a nerd all you want. There are elements of that I think are really cool. The idea that they're toy trains.
I don't know the show.
Oh, it's a fun show.
Is it? Okay.
It's very period.
Yeah.
It's period to the early 80s when rap was just coming out and stuff like that. And
I have to just throw this out there because I've got this image stuck in my head, and I can't move forward because as we're talking about this, I keep giggling to myself over here like an idiot because all I can think about. Did you guys see the Family Guy where they reference Starlight Express?
I probably did. You refreshed me.
It's so funny. Peter Griffin.
Was Peter in costume?
Yes. And, it's one of those moments where he goes,
"Oh, I did see this."
He goes, "This was the time that this was just like the time that you guys didn't support me my opening night of Starlight Express." Then it cuts to it, and it's Peter skating in a circle in the costume. And he basically looks like a Tron costume.
Yeah.
And as he's doing it, he's going, Starlight Express, Starlight Express, Starlight Express. And then finally he stops and he takes his helmet off and throws it on the ground and goes, Starlight Express. And that's the whole bit. And so the entire time that you guys have been having this intelligent conversation, that's all that's been running through my head.
Just ringing in your ears.
I can move forward now.
But what's funny is that it's true because there's several moments in the show where they just repeat. There's Starlight Express, Starlight Express. It's very true.
In the world of improvisation,
yeah,
that's a sign that you have no idea what to say. And there's one of those. Paul Mattingly is brilliant at it. When you get kind of stumped on stage, you just start repeating the last thing you just said, and when you do it after a while, it becomes hysterical. So I have a feeling Andrew Lloyd Webber just had no clue where to go with it. He was high when he started it.
Yeah,
he was under contract.
Lyrics later.
I got the melody down, and he's in a costume that lights up. We'll figure it out.
Maybe the audience will probably be high, so we need to repeat the title a multitude of times so they know that they're not at Cats.
Well, let me tell you how. Let me tell you. This may kind of define it for you if you're not terribly familiar with it. It's still playing in Germany. And they love it.
David Hasselhoff is still playing.
They love it there. They freak out over there.
Hassel the Hoff, guys.
Yeah. And that reminds me, did we ever talk about Rocky the musical? Okay, seriously. There is...
Well, I know that there is one.
Yeah, and it's in Germany. It's in Germany.
I mean, they're even redoing, Carrie.
Which was the shortest running musical on
Broadway.
Well,
didn't they do... They did that, though. They did that, though, and it was on Broadway. No, it was on Off-Broadway. Again, didn't do well. And they did all these rewrites. And they have a new soundtrack out that you can get it. And then now it's, I think it's theatrical rights worldwide. It's now, if I'm not mistaken, it's available now.
How does the actor playing Rocky Balboa sing? I mean, does he does he bring in the Sylvester...
It's like British musicians that suddenly don't have an accent and they say, and then just beautiful.
Can I tell you something? It's probably like this. On PBS they have like operas and stuff every now and then. Like the Masterpiece Classics, whatever.
Nerd.
Well, yeah, I know. It was like 3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep or something, and I was flipping through it, and they had, and I'm not joking. It's in existence. They had an opera version of Streetcar Named Desire, and I sat there, and it was probably a third of the way through. And I sat there and I go, wow, this is not a good idea. This just isn't a good idea. And no, you don't understand. It is so much like that. It's not even funny.
No, that is funny.
I could not look away. I watched the whole thing.
The Simpsons did a
Streetcar Named Marge.
Yeah, where they did a Streetcar Named Desire musical. My favorite part is when they're all doing the box steps in the very, very end, and then they stop and they put their hands up to the sides and they jazz hands and they go streetcar, and then it's beat, and then they all go. It kills me every time.
If you've never seen that episode, it's worth YouTubing. Homer is mad because Marge gets this lead in Streetcar Named Desire, a community musical.
With Ned Flanders.
It's like Ned Flanders is playing Stanley.
Season 4?
No, it's got to be earlier than that. I thought it was like 1 or 2.
It's early on. There's early on in the series.
There's this one point where they're at home and they're arguing over it. And Marge just walks out and says, "Fine, you do," and he walks out. And Homer's just like, "Well, who's going to open my pudding cup then? Who's going to open it?" And he goes to open it himself, and the little knob comes off, and he's like, "No!" And he goes out, and he goes across the street, and then he goes, and he's holding the pudding cup going, "Marge! Marge!" And it's so funny. You have to see it. It's really, it's good times. It's good times. Well, listen.
Here's another great musical that didn't do very well, and the book is really weak, but I love the music. It's Pow Bang Boom. It's Superman.
Really?
Is it? Is it the same one that used to be? Because there was an old one called "It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman." Is that the same one? They renamed it.
I think so.
I think so too. I think they had like a
So
second
good.
incarnation of it.
So good, and it was just such a good show. And he only flew once in the entire thing. It was like this big special effect when he jumped from the floor up to like the top of a tower to hit the bad guy. And it's just, the whole thing is camp. But if you're a Superman fan and a comic book Superman fan, you know, it is so good.
Well, yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't have anything that we're used to, you know, putting towards Superman. It doesn't have Lex Luthor. It doesn't have. It has Lois Lane, and it has like the
what is the draw? Obviously,
bad guy,
there wasn't a draw.
The bad guy is some weird diamond
Scientist,
smuggling,
yeah.
diamond, you know, scientist guy.
Diamond
I don't know.
Jim.
I don't know. I can't remember, but I'll look it up during the break and we'll talk about
so
more.
much fun.
But there's moments in it that I remember getting the CD and going,
Yeah.
well, this is interesting.
Yeah.
You know, there you go.
I'm a fan, I admit it.
I'm sure
Yeah,
there's 2
you're
or 3
gonna-
things that I love that you guys would be like.
That just made me think of the unreleased version of the Fantastic Four that Roger Corman filmed in Night of the Living Dead. Roger Corman. There are some black market bootlegs out there, which I have a copy. It is so bad, but it's.
Well, listening. If you're listening right now, listen. If you have like your favorite, like if you have a musical that like it's your favorite, but you're kind of like it's a guilty pleasure, like you're ashamed to say that it's one of your favorites, or if you have ever watched a musical that was just absolutely horrid, horrendous, terrible, give us a call. 221-SAVE. Again, it's 221-SAVE. For those of you who don't like letters, 221-7283. Let us know what your least favorite show was, or maybe a guilty pleasure, one that you kind of got hidden in your back pocket that you don't like to admit is your favorite. And if you call right now and share your story with us, we'll give you tickets to 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee over at Faith Lutheran. So,
And we need to talk about that.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well as some
I think
other
so.
things.
but let's take a quick break, and then we'll come right back. We'll talk a little bit more, and we'll go from there.
Do you remember how to turn the buttons?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. Here we go. That area. There we go.
Yeah,
We're good.
how about that?
Liam Ernie, and you are absolutely listening to Curtain Call with Eric Ball. Don't stop listening.
Are you sick and tired of your garage door going up but never coming down, or going down and coming back up?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that was like a Simpsons episode.
It was,
We were
kinda.
just like all over the place.
Yeah.
I got popcorn too.
I think like I'd love to broaden that topic too that you were talking about.
I like that.
With
topic.
because you were talking about
Don't let me not
singing songs at an audition for the.
Yeah, but I'd love to talk about audition faux pas because have you directed? I'm good. Have you directed?
I don't like actors enough to direct.
Okay.
I was considering doing Mindy Woodhead's.
You do workshops and you lead though.
My problem is that I would much rather be on stage,
Okay.
and I haven't gotten to a point where I want to experiment. And there's been a couple of times where I've thought about it, and I'm sure if I ever do, it'll be a very small 2-person, 3-person thing. But I'd be like Pete Rose. I'd be like, I'm going to manage this team, but I'm also going to play first base.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy.
I hear you.
You know, that's another topic of discussion. People who
Pete
direct
Rose?
and star and
Well, I think David McKee is doing that currently.
who David McKee?
Yeah.
Oh,
In
maybe we
Betrayal.
shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah. So that's.
Did they just have auditions for that?
What's that?
David's directing Betrayal Pinter,
Is it?
and I think
That's one Pinter play I'm not familiar with.
But
Oh,
he'd
I know
asked me
any hero.
initially, and then I was like, I really just don't want to do Pinter. But I enjoy Pinter, but I think that unless you're passionate and willing to really dig in that script, you know what I mean? I wasn't interested. Anyway, the point is that what I've broaden it to is there's this whole list of audition faux pas. Don't do these songs, don't do this, don't do that, don't sing this way, don't do this monologue. And I think that a lot of them are crap, and having been an auditioner, it's like, people are like, don't do this monologue, they're sick
Well,
of this monologue.
let's hold it until we get back from break
Yeah,
because
let's start with it. Let's
and
just go.
because I have some thoughts about it, and because I've never directed, there's certain things. Again,
You could do it from the actor's
we can get into
perspective.
it. Yeah, that's fun. So when we get back, bring it up as the topic.
I'll do
and
a
say that I
30-second
wanna
one after
broaden
this,
it.
and then we'll go right into it.
and we've talked about auditions before, but
Yeah, but not this.
well,
can
not
I?
yeah.
Can I have a cookie? I really won't. bad.
Yeah, but I'm saying that when you come back in, like if you bring up the original and I'll say I'd love to broaden that, let's include audition for pause and we'll go from there. Barbara King.
What's that?
The British woman in the commercial. Barbara King. I love that woman. That's the theater that the tour is going to be playing at, the historic 5th Street School.
Say it again.
This is where the Rainbow Tour is going to be. Kirsten sent me that. She's listening.
Welcome back to Curtain Call. I'm Eric Ball, and we're sitting here with Sean Critchfield and Glenn Heath. And I was going to say that we were talking about before we went into the break, but
that's exactly what we were talking.
We were talking about just about
it was a. All the
mishmash.
things we never got out of our mouths at the last part of 2012.
It's like we were storing up and we just kind of threw it up.
No, it's totally like in elementary school when you get back from Christmas break, and, you know, and you hadn't seen each other in weeks, so it's just like, we're going to talk about everything.
It's like,
you know, do you guys remember having to write the papers in your grade school classes, you know, what you did over Christmas vacation?
I hated those.
You suck as a teacher because you have nothing better to do than make me sit here and write.
You hear that, teachers? Tomorrow you better have assignments. That's all I gotta say. Well, listen, let's broaden that topic that we were talking about earlier about auditions, because we have a bunch of auditions coming up.
Oh, yeah.
We have ones that just ended that we are just now starting production. I was talking about how Las Vegas Little Theater and Emily, my wife, is stage managing Tale of the Allergist Wife. They have their first read-through tonight. You know, things are on their feet and slowly going to start gaining legs here. But I was interested in the topic of what one has to prepare to audition, and why would a director require something so bloody specific, and the benefit or the hindrance of that, because
well, there is a certain logic to the audition process. Obviously, you know, the more popular a show may be, the more people that are going to come out, and a director's got to have a vision in mind of what he wants for the his actors to do and look like, I suppose.
But in the same breath, my buddy Dave, who's directing the middle school musical at Faith, and they're doing Disney's Little Mermaid Junior, you couldn't get me to pay, you couldn't pay me to sit through those auditions, just sit there and listen to Part of Your World 75,000 times. You know?
If Terrence Williams is listening, he can let us know how he thought about Annie.
Auditions,
having to listen to at least 100 little girls singing Tomorrow. But that's one of those things that is a signature song, and it's important what you sound like singing that song.
Well, and you have to do it. But but now let me start off the conversation by posing a specific question, and then maybe you can stem off from there. Would you say, and I'll say this. Take it from the director's perspective, Sean. Take it from the actor's perspective.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Ready?
Tag team.
You're
okay.
Way bigger.
Hang on. There we go. Let's say I'm holding auditions.
I don't want to do it
for a musical. Okay.
I don't want to be in your
Watch it. And I tell you that I don't want you to sing something from the show. Why would I say that? Why would that benefit a production or a director's decision-making process?
Well, I'll say from the actor's perspective, probably the same reason that monologues aren't necessarily, in my opinion, useful, because it's something obviously you can over-prepare and have for years and years and years, and it doesn't necessarily show what your capabilities are. It just shows that, if you rehearse something enough, you'll be able to do it.
I'd argue, especially one that's been videotaped that you can send in.
Sure. The same thing may go with regards to the songs, but a director is also going to want to see what the actor's choices are. And this is a great way to see how in tune you are with the type of music.
So it's kind of throwing them a curveball, you mean?
Well, it's a test. At least I think it would be in my mind, and I'm not going to give away any of my secrets, not that I have any, but next to normal auditions are coming up. And there's only a couple of roles that I would even fit into, but I'm going to audition, and so for me it's like, well, what songs do you pick? I don't like singing songs from the show, simply because a callback is usually what I think that would be. Prepare the song from the show for the callback, and so that's, because I was trying to, I need to find an upbeat, almost rock tempo type song that fits, that's kind of similar.
Do they want you to sing something different for Next to Normal?
No, you can sing something from Next to Normal, but they also ask to prepare those songs as well. So I prepared the songs from Next to Normal, but I'm going to sing something different as well.
What would you say would be the benefit of?
Well, here's the thing: is that I'm really, really, really trying not to pull my soapbox out and drop it down and hop up on it with this, because I'm passionate about this from every perspective. I'm passionate about this as a director, passionate about this as a coach, and I'm passionate about this as an actor. Because I mean, we are, in most cases, we are not actors. We're auditioners. We spend 60% of our career auditioning, and so many people neglect it. And there's an art and a skill set used for auditioning. And I was really lucky to get to take
a joy in auditioning.
Yeah. Sorry. I was really, really lucky to get to take an audition class with a guy, Glenn Morshower, he's known in Hollywood as the only man who went 9 for 9. He went to 9 film auditions and landed 9 roles. And the guy is incredible. And now what he does, he's been in all sorts of stuff, 24. And he teaches audition classes, and taking his audition workshop changed my view of auditioning entirely.
As a director?
All of the above. All of the above. And so I teach, with my students, I go over auditioning extensively. Like oftentimes early on in the process of taking on a student, I'll say, what do you want to do? And I say, look, I just want to do some community theater and enjoy myself, is a perfectly reasonable answer.
Sure.
And I'm not going to spend as much time as auditioning professionally with that student, as with someone who says, I want to do this for a living. And it's like, okay, well then we're not just going to do the craft, we're going to do the business end of it. You know? So when it comes to not singing the song, I think the benefit to the director and to the actor is the same. If the director is aware of this, no matter how hard you try not to, you're going to have a preconceived notion on how you want that song sang.
Sure.
You are there to direct them, and you're going to try to, at some point, impose some of your choices onto your actor. It's going to happen. That's the nature of the beast. So, if you get a person up there who's auditioning who doesn't do it exactly as you wanted them to, that's going to hurt them. Even though that might be the person who's going to nail it in the long run, they're not going to get the role because you have these preconceived notions about the songs. So having them do something else, you can't have them.
And it's a lot harder during an audition to have them go back and sing the song as it is to reading sides and saying, okay, I want you to read the scene again, but I want you to do it
yeah, exactly.
As if you're eating a peanut butter sandwich.
Exactly.
Whatever. I've had some weird direction like that, but and that's a great concept. I kind of want to divert a little bit because I've taken some workshops as well, and I'd taken one with a gentleman who's out of New York, Rance Wright, and
Rance Wright, yeah, the right way,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did this with some friends of ours, Carol von Hoschweg was in the class, Jamie Woodard. As well as good Lord,
Keith Dodson and Keith Carnell Johnson.
Carnell, yeah, that's right. That's where I actually met Carnell. But the aspect of the auditions from this perspective is, you need to be aware of who you are and bring yourself to that audition. Not necessarily coming in as a character, but you need to make those strong choices and know that you are good enough. Because there's a million reasons why you didn't get cast. You're the wrong gender, you're the wrong age, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too thin, you're too fat. If you ever seen Tootsie, the whole Dustin Hoffman thing that he goes through. And there's so many reasons why somebody doesn't get cast, even if they nail the audition. And so there's got to be that first thing from the actor's side, where I come from, that I go in with the attitude of, I can do this role. You may not choose me, but I'm going to show you that I can. And I've gotten to a point in my, call it a career, that I'm okay not getting roles.
Well, you've got to be able to brush it off.
Well, you have to, because a director, if you bring in the fear of not getting a role, when
one, they smell it a mile away.
Yeah. And other actors will eat you alive. Yeah. Even in community theater, it's
and Dustin Hoffman was in Tootsie.
I think so.
Well, that explains a lot for that movie. I'm gonna have to watch it again.
I completely agree with that. I think that when you're walking into an audition situation, the thing that I hate to hear is you hear people and they're like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to try real hard, and then I'm going to do my best work that I can do for the director, and then I'm going to leave, and then it's in his hands, and it's out of my hands. Enjoy your time on the unemployment line, because that's not enough. And that's the overall opinion that most people have. I went in there, I gave 100%. No, you go in, you give 200%. You go in and you ask for what you want. You know, that's the biggest thing that I find so funny, is that actors don't realize that directors want them to be brilliant. They're on your side.
Make their job easier.
Yeah, the director wants the very first person that comes in to nail it and be like, done.
Yeah, cut, print, we're done. So they're on your side. And so the period of time that they've allotted for you is your time.
Right.
And so many actors view it as the director's time.
Like a hurdle you have to get over.
And so when I'm in an audition, I have no problem. You know, there's been times when they're pairing people up to read, and you see that one person who's just really got it, and they keep having that person go up. And for whatever reason, if I don't get to read with that person, at some point the director's going to go, okay, I think I've seen what I need to see. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I'd like to read.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And not a moment's hesitation.
And that is something that I've learned over the years, is that directors do appreciate, to some extent, a bit of forwardness from the actor. They want to see...
Well, proactiveness.
Yes. When I go into an audition, I want them to see that Glenn is somebody that they can work with.
Yeah.
I don't go into an audition as Joe the character. Here's what I can do. Yeah, look at this. Because it's the director's job.
Oh, sorry. I just turned the wrong person off because Sean was coughing.
Yeah. It's the director's job to take the actor, and as you were saying, Sean, mold them into what they want. And if the preconceived notions are something that I try to get rid of.
Yeah, and people get terrified. Like I have a friend that I coach off and on, and I asked him at his last audition, I said, did you read everything you wanted to read? No. Well, why not? No. I didn't ask. Why didn't you ask? I was scared.
Can I tell you something?
Well, you're dead in the water right there.
That's the biggest thing that I tell my students. I said, don't walk out of an audition with regrets. You've got to be able to throw it down, take a chance. If you feel like this is something that you need to take a chance on, make a big, bold choice and have fun with it and be confident in it and put it out there.
And even if the director doesn't have time, even if the director looks at you and says, I'm really sorry, I don't have time for you two to read, you still have made the point that you're willing to ask for what you need and you're there to work.
Right.
You know, and that's so important.
And it kind of separates the proverbial wheat from the chaff, because there's people who expect to be heard or demand that this happens. It's a very different approach when you go up to them and say, listen, I would like to request this. It shows a proactiveness in the actor and the want to create, not necessarily the you need to see this. It's more I would like to show this to you. And it's a very thin line, you know, there, because as a director you want to work with people who want to work.
Well, I will say this, because I mentioned Rance.
Yeah.
Right. I took his workshop shortly after I auditioned for
Little Shop
4s. And I have to, thank Shannon Cook for getting me to come back in. I don't know what transpired from the moment I left, but she said something to the panel that was there, and I ended up coming back in because what I gave was not what she knew I could give. And my mind is like, she came back out and she's like, go do it the way you know how.
Oh, wow, cool.
And that's the last audition I've ever gone in where I didn't do that right the first time. And I just thought about that because I was like,
probably that chance to do it again is probably worth $1 million.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, and I owe her so much for that, because that's
Shannon's
like
great.
A springboard
Great.
So many other things.
And I faced it as an actor as well. I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but
please
I made
toot away.
I made it all the way to Chelsea Studios in New York, auditioning for Avenue Q for Brian, and it was down to me and one other guy, and we went in and we laid it on the line, and the guy, I swear to you, the other actor's name was Cole Porter, and Cole, if you're listening, I love you. And we both got in there, and at the end of the audition, the director looked at me and he said, are we adults here? And I said, yeah. And he said, so I can tell you what I'm thinking? And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm sorry, but I want you to know that this has nothing to do with your ability. If it had anything to do with your ability, you wouldn't be standing in front of us right now.
Right.
One of you walked through the door, and you were what we wanted, and we want a bigger Brian. And Cole had probably 30 pounds on me. So
Now,
because
was
of
this
that,
for the tour, or is this for the actual?
this was for the one that
that was here
that
in-
lived in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so it was unbelievable, but to get that far and then just have
Wow.
it, and it was that same thing that we're talking about. I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I had given it everything I had, and I had done all of the work to get me to that point. Once it was there, then it was truly out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to that point because I remember all the rules. Like, your audition begins in the parking lot. That when you walk in there, that you treat that audition monitor with respect. When I was doing my stint in New York, I remember I was there was a stage
You never
manager.
know who's monitoring at the table.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And here's the thing: you can't really think about that. You got to go in and just do your thing and be confident of it and hope. And
But there
and
still needs to be the respect of,
definitely.
of the process and all the other actors.
Well, and I'll add to that, because you never know who's going to sit across from you at the next table.
Right.
It could be the same people.
Well, and you don't know if you're auditioning with someone who's directing the next show.
right.
And you know what? I know a lot of directors that go out and ask their audition monitors how are they behaved in the lobby. Because being the best. This is something that Kirsten says all the time, and I love it. She says being the best is great. Being the best is fantastic, but the person who's second best is not far off of the best. And if the person who's second best is nicer than the guy who's the best,
Yeah.
I'll take second best every day of the week.
When did Kirsten become the
You know.
best?
And let me tell you
Let me
something.
tell you, she is the best.
Parents,
She's fantastic.
parents of students who want to go into theater or be in performance art in some regards, if you accompany these children to auditions, I will tell you right now, from somebody who auditions kids an awful lot, your behavior in the lobby is just as critical as those kids'
If not
behaviors, if
more
not
so.
more.
Yeah, because
And-
it's that idea of you also are looking at who's going to be painless to work with.
Oh, yes.
That's a huge part of it. I remember, I'll never forget, I was in New York doing my stint there, and there was a stage manager, and she kept coming out, and she was going through the equity slots.
Uh-huh.
And at one point, she said, we're going to take about 15 minutes. And I said, thank you, 15. And she paused, and she turned around and looked at me, and she said, thank you. And she walked into the office. And at the end of the day, I'd been there for 2 more hours. They came out, and they said, we've seen everything we need to see today. I'm sorry, we're not seeing any of the non-equity slots. I apologize. Thank you guys for coming. And as I stood up, she grabbed my arm. And she said, hold on a second. And everyone left, and she marched me back there, and I got to audition. I didn't get the role. I didn't get cast. But because of my behavior with the audition monitor, because I was acting like a professional in the lobby, it went a long way, and it got me through those doors, and it got me in front of the people at the fold-up tables.
And you never know what is going to come of that. And that's something, from an actor's perspective, I've learned a long time ago, that I may audition for someone and not get the role. But if I am somebody that director sees a future potential with, that goes a long way. I just had the opportunity of after 5-6 years of working with Eric Amblad, and I don't know if I've ever auditioned for him before, but it's been one of those things where you do a good job and directors talk to each other, and it's a small community in Vegas, granted, but when you do those things, word gets around, and it goes in from the moment you step in to the moment you leave, and even beyond, because people talk, and it's like, oh, well, so-and-so this, and so-and-so
It's a small
that.
theater world.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is. I was just going to say that one of the things that Glenn talks about in his audition class is that on your resume, the director's name is just as important as everything else. That it should be in your list of credits, that one of the things you should put in there is the director's name. Because it is such a small community. You never know when your auditioner is going to go, oh, Eric Ball. Yeah, I know Eric. How do you know it? Oh, you worked on this with him? That's great. And then that night, who knows if he's giving Eric a call and saying, what do you think of this guy?
I used to do that. I stopped doing that a long time ago.
I think in this theater pool,
I was going to say, I would say that
same with like dates. I used to put dates on my resume.
I would say that it depends on geographically where
I
you're
agree with
If
that.
you're auditioning for Las Vegas Community Theater, I think putting your director's name is very good. If you're auditioning here, and then next week you're auditioning in Florida, and next week you're auditioning in New York, then cities might be more useful. I don't know. I wonder what the etiquette is.
I guess I will agree with you to the extent of if you're new to Vegas.
Okay,
But I'm not going to toot my own horn right now, but if there's a director in town who doesn't know who I am,
you haven't been listening very hard.
and
that's great. It's a valid point.
And again, only because I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of directors.
I would argue that that's a good thing.
Don't argue with me.
I was going to say, that's a good thing, and it puts a lot of pressure on you.
I love it. I love the pressure.
Yeah.
You know how much pressure...
And can I tell you something?
Can we talk about pressure, what I'm doing right now?
Well, let's talk about what you just did moments before you walked into the room. He just finished playing Sweeney Todd over at the Onyx Theater, the second incarnation of Sweeney Todd, and Chris Mays and Glenn are splitting the role this time around.
Well, it's his role. There are some dates that he's unable to accommodate simply because of his
schedule.
Yeah. And when Brandon Burke contacted me early mid-December,
Brandon, I like to perform too.
Yeah,
Anyways,
well,
anyway,
and I spoke to him. We're gonna get Brandon Burke on the show in a few weeks. He's doing last 5 years.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Who got cast in that?
I don't know the girl's name. I had it on the top of my head.
Because we were announcing the auditions.
Anthony Duvalier is directing it, so.
See, I heard
he's putting himself out there for.
I heard he might
might not too. We've heard that he said that he's.
They're deep into rehearsals at this point.
And you know something? I need to listen to LV Tap's last show because they had Anthony Duvalier on the show.
Well, they were actually at the Onyx because I came into a rehearsal. Long story short, and they're doing their live show January 30th at the Onyx, their 2-year anniversary. So
I wish we could do remote stuff here.
We can. It's just a matter of putting it on camera, and then we can do remotes, and I can add it into.
Tell you what, we'll talk about that later because I have
I'm going to be adding a bunch of production value to the show.
I have microphones. We'll talk later. You don't need to hear all this.
In any case, I had auditioned for the role originally, and Chris Mays had got the role, and I was okay with not getting the role.
Yeah.
Simply because I know I had some conflicts going in, but I also I've come to find out that as directors are wont to do, they have certain individuals in mind, and I think Chris was in Brandon's mind all along. Great, that's you.
Well, Chris is a great actor.
He certainly has the presence for that role.
Yeah.
And so when he called me, and he knew that I was very passionate about the role. It was my #1 role on my list. Still kind of is.
You kind of crossed off your bucket list.
I did. #1 off my list. And I'm not done with the character by far because three performances does not a run of a character make. However, it is so whet my appetite for pushing myself. But when I did Sweeney Todd a couple years ago, I had 2 weeks to learn Judge Turpin's role with the Mea Culpa song. This time I had 3 weeks to learn the Sweeney Todd role.
Wow.
And thankfully, because it's my favorite show, and because I was so passionate about it, the opportunity. I broke down in tears the other day after finally getting through. Today was my 4th full run of the show.
Wow.
And
people are talking about it, dude. They're saying it's going great.
It is. It's a fantastic cast. It's a wonderful team to work with.
If you haven't seen it, it got huge rave reviews the first time it came out. And it's kind of disappointing because they celebrated it again when they got a chance to do it for a second incarnation. Yeah. And
you know what, that tends to happen. I mean, the same thing happened with Evil Dead. They brought a second incarnation of it.
Yeah.
Cannibal the Musical, when we did a number of years ago, came back for a second, third, and even eventually a fourth when it was put up at the Plaza. And there's, sometimes there's that little. All right, whatever. But again, there was a lot of people that didn't get an opportunity to see it. I was going to
say, that show still had a lot of momentum.
Yes.
And still does.
Yes. The houses have been a little light. Our Thursday preview, the soft open that I got to perform, had a fairly large house.
Oh, cool.
I was there to watch opening night as well, and it was okay. But today, not as many. Very receptive audience, though. We got a standing ovation. So,
cool.
And so there's a lot of validation that comes out of putting. That was my Christmas vacation. I had 2 weeks off of work. That's what I did.
And it's also, and that speaks perfectly into what we're talking about. That because of his reputation, and he didn't get cast in the role initially, but when the opportunity came, that you were fresh in his mind, that that you had done the work to be offered that role when the time came.
Yeah. There's like this weird urgency to theater. I see it in my high school students. I see it as in my students that go on to universities and want to immerse themselves in their major.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's this weird urgency that I got to do it now, or I'll never be able to do it again.
Well, there are a few roles like that.
There are,
and
and
Annie is certainly one that.
And here's the thing: you're 100% correct. There's a certain age range that you are going to be able to do these roles for one time, you know, until you get older, and you're going to be perceived as older, and you have a different age range at that point. But the glorious opportunity that is theater presents that gamut. You know what I mean? Like, I could be 90 years old, and there's roles for me. You know what I mean? There are still some really wonderful theater to do, and I think
Richard the Third.
I think if you look at what theater is out there and what demands theater has, because it's always, I think it's also a misperception on the students' parts that what can theater do for me. And it's not so much that at all. I had a huge wake-up call when I went to college. I went to Jackson College in Michigan first. I got a scholarship. And I walked into my first class with the biggest head you have ever seen. I mean, I barely got in the room. And because I thought I was the next big thing. And I approached all of my projects with that air of cockiness. Yeah, I suppose. And what can they do for me? I'm here to do theater for you. And you know what I mean? And it's like, people forget. It took a smack in the face for me to realize...
Or figuratively?
Figuratively. Okay. For me to realize that theater is a living, breathing organism that has many parts, and you have to be one of those parts. And are you willing to be a part of that part? Sure. You must be willing. And what that part is varies from project to project. What the demands of the projects are on you vary from project to project, and you have to be willing to be a part of it in that capacity for the sake of the story, for the sake of the audience, for the sake of your fellow comrades. But you have to want to tell the story. Right. You can't go in there saying, what can this piece in this opportunity do for me?
When it's all said and done, it's a line on your resume.
You know, and the thing is too, is that like what I'm always, the funny part is that I honestly think in a very mystical kind of way that when I finally released my bucket list roles, I played 2 of my 3. And both of them came about a year and a half apart from each other. And they both were dropped in my lap. And it was kind of at this point in my life where I kind of released the fact that, you know, if I don't get to play those, that's okay. You know, that I'm still going to have a great career and I'm still going to do a lot of fun roles. And then, who knows? And then within a year and a half, I had Macduff dropped in my lap, and shortly after that, I had Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead dropped in my lap.
Nice.
Now, if I can both excellent performances, by the way.
Thank you very much. And you know, I just want to say too that if anyone out there is directing The Wool Gatherer, Cliff is the 3rd one. So maybe I can arrange my own serendipitous circumstances.
There you go.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, I love. That's
Claudius.
That's an intimidating. I mean, I thought Oleana was intimidating. I thought Sweeney Todd was intimidating. That may be on a short list for me.
You were half of a 94-page script.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I played Claudius in that when I was in college, and they did this kind of avant-garde makeup and costume concept with it, and so we had this almost kabuki like makeup, like very stark makeup, and I had this big, and I remember they called me the V because my eyebrow thing was like this big V of makeup, and it was very funny.
Is that the picture that's in the intro where you're kind of like wearing the Michael Jackson red jacket?
No. I don't know if I have a picture of that on Facebook. Maybe I should. Great show, though. Oh my gosh.
Michael Kim did a fantastic job with that. He was the director, and he came up with this brilliant idea that it was just this isolated universe, and that we, you know, just appeared and just poofed into existence, and that all of the entrances and exits were made into our space, and so we were just kind of sitting there.
And it was in the round. It was
done in the round,
and it's a lot of fun.
My favorite part about it was we were 100% stage time. We stayed on the stage. We started 15 minutes before the show.
Yeah.
We left 15 minutes after the end of the show, and we were on during the intermission.
Right.
They stashed water in one of the barrels for us to drink during the intermission, and the idea was that we could never leave this reality. And in the beginning of the show, we started with the coin flipping the heads. And at the very end, after we bowed, he and I met again center stage and
started back in.
Fancy a game, and we started the lines over.
It was an infinite loop.
That's pretty cool.
It was very, very well staged. I I enjoyed it immensely.
Well, we do need to take another break here. I know, and then we'll come back and we'll continue talking. If you're just now tuning in, we're talking with Sean Critchfield and Glenn Heath.
We're not talking with me.
We're
just all talking together.
We're talking in a round. Fancy game?
Heads.
And, we'll keep flipping heads and tails until you get back. In the meantime, go to our Facebook page, Curtain Call with Eric Ball, and like our Facebook page. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and kind of search Curtain Call with Eric Ball, and you can see this and all archive shows. And subscribe to it. And check us out. See what we look like. Glenn has a scarf on today, so
you know what? For the amount of
blood.
Well, no. It's a very intensive vocal role.
I imagine.
I mean, just getting.
He puts the throat coat on the outside.
No,
he's confused.
I will thank my friend Denda for knitting this for me.
Nice.
And this has been my saving grace because getting deep into the Sweeney rehearsals, my voice, epiphany alone can trash your voice.
Yeah. So, without the scarf, you'd be on the brink of dehydration. And with that, we're going to take a break here and come back with more about directing and
Eric may not make it back after that pun.
We'll see. Good times, man. I always think this is the one that's on me. It's
that one. This one's on me.
Yeah.
This one's on Sean. That one's on you. But this one is probably, I don't know what this one's doing. So
it's fun. I like it.
I'd love to talk more about that. Like, I like the audition thing, and I'd like to talk.
Let's go back to
just with the Glenn Morshire thing that he talked about.
But you kept saying my name is like I've never given any workshops.
Well, I'll start back with that, and then.
He did this great thing where he talked about Christopher Reeves, and I'd love to talk about that thing.
Awesome.
It's just like fantastic. So just delicious stuff.
I'm gonna put.
I have to go to the bathroom, but oh no, the cam. I was gonna say that would be horrible. That we could go live cam. Maybe like. I want. Can we talk about your guys' dinner?
Yeah.
Because I want to know. I'm curious what your secret little meeting was.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's the meeting of the minds and Katie K. Love you, Katie.
No, it'll be fun.
Now, who else was there? You and Kirsten and Eric and Emily.
Kirsten didn't make it.
We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you about
Angela
it.
Chan.
But
okay. Then who was that? Who was on?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
It was.
Talk about it.
I want to talk about it on the air.
We will eventually.
Eric and his lovely lady, and then there was.
But there's an odd girl out. Oh, is that Kat Gonzalez?
Yeah.
She just stopped by.
Wait. So you've got.
She just stopped by.
She just stopped by. She was doing some audio editing for Spelling Bee for me, and she got off work at Chris Angel, and she just stopped by to pick something up, and she had a beer.
Chris Angel still working?
Apparently, they're revamping the show
again.
Are we coming back?
No. 60 seconds.
Also, it's the historic 5th Street School.
Historic 5th Street School.
Is where the tour of the Rainbow Company tour is going to be.
You know what? When I come back in, I'm going to say what's coming up in a few realms.
Yeah.
And then you guys can add that. Like add.
I hate you for not being able to do Giles and this stupid Buffy thing.
What?
They're doing Once More Feeling, the musical episode of Buffy. And I got roped into it. It was very sneaky, the way it happened. Andy was like, what do you think of this? I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a fun idea. Next thing I know, I'm announced in the cast. And he was like, yeah, Glenn was on my short list. It was Glenn and then you. Glenn's just too busy right now. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do it.
He didn't even ask, but I told him a while back that I had to cut back a little bit. I did 5 ragtag shows last year, 10 total, and I want to do some shows with Kelly. So we're looking at this season. And I told her there's a few that I have to audition for. I was the director of Urinetown contacted me and wants me to audition.
Urinetown's a great show.
Yeah, and
here we go. We're coming back.
So. I'm putting myself out there for Next to Normal, so it's such a fantastic show.
Thanks for tuning in. This is Eric Ball, and you're listening to Curtain Call. It's a weekly talk show live on the air every Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m. unless there's a live football game that KSHP wants to cover, and then we do it a little bit later than that. But you can always rely on getting at least a weekly blast of what's going on in the
there's
theater
certainly
community.
plenty of archives that you could go back and listen to some. Granted, don't follow the audition notices or show times that may be referenced in those.
Well, speaking of, I was going to mention, we haven't talked about Signature Productions. They're having auditions coming up for their musical Camelot. And something.
I wonder what the King is doing tonight.
And speaking of Signature, I wanted to mention that they've been kind of on a hiatus for about a year and a half or so. About a year.
What was
I think Hairspray was about a year ago.
Almost a year. Almost a year.
They've been kind of in a holding pattern because of the situation with the venue over at the Summerlin Performing Arts Library. It was all up in the air, and I don't want to get into that. But they are going to be doing this performance at the Summerlin Library and Performing Arts Center again. But the auditions are coming up January 18th from 6 to 10 p.m. and then January 19th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's going to be at the Art Institute of Las Vegas in Henderson.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's where the auditions are going to be held, but the actual performances and rehearsals are going to be up in
Who's directing it?
That's Deanna Anderson and Scotty Scott. It's a collaborative effort.
Is it? Okay.
Two directors, Deanna Anderson and Scotty Scott. And I don't know them very well. I'm getting to know them.
I don't know either.
They seem very nice. The vocal director is Shauna Oblad, and the choreographer is Ashley Oblad. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Camelot, if you have any questions or concerns, or if you want to set up an appointment, go to just email Signature Productions 2013
I want to see
at
Sean
Gmail.
as Mordred.
Ooh.
I'm concerned with your production of Camelot. If the questions or concerns, I'm
Any question?
I'm concerned. Eric said that if I was concerned.
I have a concern about...
I was just going to say when Glenn said, I wonder what the King is up to. I'm like, two of them are on the radio show.
Yeah,
That's
right.
true. We have two of the
Two
Tournament of
King
Kings in the room.
Very, very true. And
I portrayed Arthur
in Camelot.
Yeah.
There we are.
I want to selflessly promote my the music. Well, not mine, but the musical that is at Faith Lutheran that's opening this Friday. If you've never seen the musical, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, you must see it. It's not simply because it's my students performing it. That's why you should see it.
It's just a fun show.
But it's a really, really fun show. It's hysterical. It's poignant, and it's you can certainly relate to it emotionally. And it's just a great, great show. And this is a group...
And you have double cast?
Yes, we have two casts of girls. The boys are the same cast. But they are, quite frankly, a tremendously talented group of kids. And they've been working really hard. And it's just a great production for all members of the family. It's Friday and Saturday this weekend at 7 p.m., Sunday at 4 p.m., then the following weekend, Friday, Saturday at 7, and then Sunday at 4. Tickets for that can be purchased at faiththeatercompany.com. Again, faiththeatercompany.com. And we have special ticket pricing for this one, $10 for adults, $5 for students and children. And it's really, really, so it's very economical. It's a great theater and a great cast. Lots of fun.
Now, this is not this is something that the students specifically put together, or in the sense of they were responsible for it.
Yes, this is a studio production. Right. This is we added a 5th show to our season at Faith, and this one has been worked on the entire first semester in class. Mm-hmm. We have 2 student directors, 2 student choreographers. Myself, Christian Escobar, Michael Vojvodich, Jonathan Tuala, we all have been kind of supporting them in helpful kind of guidance ways, you know, but we haven't been doing any of the directing. We haven't made any of the costume choices, any of the blocking choices, all of that is student generated. And it's kind of Faith Lutheran's way to hold kind of a spotlight production for the students.
Not kind of, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's... And it really gives these students a perspective of what has to go into it.
And let me tell you, Spelling Bee is not an easy show. It's a hard show to do, and they did a great job with it. And
I've never seen it.
It is a riot.
It is a riot.
I missed the opportunity. Our friend John Sangster had done a production of it recently, where it's kind of like a mixed cast with.
Oh yeah, and they went to London.
Yeah, they went to London and split the cast that way.
And then Las Vegas Little Theater did it a while back, and Joe Hines.
Keith Dotson, Joe Hines, Amanda Kraft.
A fun opportunity.
Christine DeChavez.
I had done workshops at the Utah Thespian Conference at Dixie State College. Happened to be doing
thespian.
it. I did.
Okay, good.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
But a delayed reaction on that one.
Yeah, sorry.
Heads. But they were doing it at Dixie State College, and we really had a great time there.
Well, there's a level of audience participation. There's a level of improv, and it's got some really tight harmonies.
A level of spelling, hopefully.
I'll tell you,
really
ironically, there's, and I don't want to. Is it okay if I spoiler a little bit?
You can do anything you want.
Okay.
The winning word is.
There's one opportunity where they bring someone from the audience up to participate.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In the spelling bee, and they had a guy, and he got up there, and he. No matter what they threw at him, he spelled it right. And they get trickier and trickier and trickier until finally, in the end, they were like, spell the word. It was like cat. It was like C-A-T, and they're like, I'm sorry, you're wrong. And it was really funny that they finally just had to oust him.
They had to get him out of there, yeah.
It was really funny.
It really is a great show, and I am building it up because I would like to see my students get an audience for the show, of course. But I would argue that some of the best theater in town is the ones where it is involving a high school or a performance group that's like a children's theater or something. These are kids who have unbridled excitement and passion for what they do. And when you get that level of excitement and kind of throw themselves at it approach to theater, just great energy comes from it. A great story is told, and you have lots of fun. And this is a very reasonable.
Great, Jordan Mazzucato, Marissa McCoy.
Intern Kelly.
Is Rudiger in it? Jessica Rudiger?
Jessica Rudiger's not in that one. No, she's a freshman, and that's a musical theater 2 class. So,
okay.
But
another fantastic student there.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, that's a perfect segue into. I mean, this Rainbow Company tour. One of the things that we're playing with a different format this year, which I think is really exciting. And we want to have a lot more interaction with the kids and a lot more participation. 2 of the cast members currently came up through the program, which is really fun, and now are working, in the tour for the company, which is fantastic. And I did get the information on that. The dates are February 15th and 16th, and it's at the historical 5th Street School. Is going to be where it's at.
Now, do we know the story, the production itself?
We don't want to tip our hand yet because it's going to be a new format, but I can tell you that it's called All Along the Truckee. And it is going to have.
I don't know why that's funny to me, but it is.
Yeah, it's going to have.
As long as you're not just skating around in circles and Rocky,
Starlight Express.
So that's it. Glenn's on to us. They have to come up.
I've just written a new musical.
They have to come up with the new concept. Thanks a lot, Glenn.
Well, and I want to bring up another event that we haven't talked about that we're kind of I'm at the head of with Cheryl Rudiger in the Rudy Foundation.
Rudy.
Yeah.
Rudy Huxtable Foundation.
Oh Lord, here we go. Bill Cosby's in the house. We have.
Where's the Jello?
There's an inaugural showcase that's being.
Inaugural.
Would you please?
This is the rest of the show.
The rest of the show.
Enjoy.
Take off your sweater, please.
Well, is my sweater blinding you, Mr. Ball?
Glenn, put your sweater back on, please.
That's not a sweater. That's my chest hair.
Oh Lord, the Rudy Foundation is offering scholarships here, and we're doing it in a way that we've never done before. This is our inaugural year. It's this event called Master of the House, and what it is. We're inviting all of Las Vegas high schools and performing arts groups that have high school-aged students involved. We want them to bring a 10-minute offering, a condensed musical, a variety of songs from a musical, however they want to put it together.
Strictly musicals?
Strictly musicals.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is we're going to have a day where we do a showcase, and it's going to be open to public. We're going to sell tickets so anybody can come and watch, and you'll see the cream of the crop of Las Vegas high school talent. And what we'll do is we'll have 3 guest judges, and they will adjudicate these performances. And through a series of things that happen, it's going to be very game show-like, very fun, very up atmosphere, very high energy, you know, very competitive. We want to have a competitive element to it. And we will find out, according to the rubrics, the performance rubrics, who our first, second, and third place winners are. The third place winner is going to get $1,000, and that $1,000 can go right back into their program.
Wow.
Second place is $1,500, and first place gets $2,500 from the Rudy Foundation, plus Rudy Rudiger will come and speak to their group. It's a really great, and not only that, but the director of that team, we're going to have a blazer, just like, you know, the Masters, like golf or something. We're going to have a blazer.
It'll be a multicolored.
Oh, good Lord.
No, I knitted it myself.
I've got a segue here.
Sure.
It's very funny. So, there was a musical that was going to be done in town, and the writers decided that they wanted to workshop it somewhere after seeing a concert version of it called Fugitive Songs that had gone up and they did a concert.
I heard of that.
It was beautiful, beautiful music. I think you can get it on iTunes right now, and it's worth listening to. This will be.
Songs.
It's the same team that did Tuck Everlasting.
Oh, wow.
And the music is fantastic. So anyway, and they were shopping for a Las Vegas director to do it. And it came down to, it was me and Steve Huntsman, and Steve, I'm going to tell the story. It's very funny, and I love you, but I'm telling the story because it's awesome. And so Steve comes into this, and Steve's wearing this like silk white scarf. And he comes in, he looks like an aviator. So he comes in and he sits down, and I'm looking over at him, and I'm like, you know what, they haven't announced who's going to direct this yet. I know that Steve and I are on the list, and I said, and with that scarf, it's got to be him. And so we're like, kind of like giggling and laughing. And I've worked with Steve many times, and I love the guy, so I know he won't mind that I was poking a little fun, and I was like, it's got to be him. So we're sitting there, and then the team gets up, and they said, coming up in the summer, it's going to be headed up by Sean Critchfield. And they're like, Sean, and I had no idea this was going to happen. And they're like, Sean, would you please come up?
Did you steal Steve's scarf
I
from
walked by Steve and I said, I'll take that.
Awesome.
Neck and put it on. It would have gone to the stage. And I explained to him later. So
That's really funny.
That is fantastic. But you had the whole conversation with Steve in your head, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so you taking the scarf off him, he's like, what the
Steve,
hell?
I don't know what's happening. And then I explained afterwards. He thought it was good fun.
Well,
I'll take that.
Well, here's the thing. This I'm unceremoniously segueing back to Master of the House after the.
No, do it.
No,
do
please.
it.
But here's the thing, guys. If you're a high school student listening, if you're a teacher, if you're anybody who's involved or knows somebody that's involved in a high school aged theater program, it's a great opportunity. We are going to have a celebrity MC that's yet to be announced. We're still working on getting the celebrity MC. We have a couple people in the works.
Carrot Top's not.
Carrot Top. And and that person is going to lead a workshop on the Sunday afterwards. We're going to have, it's just going to be really, really fun, and yet another opportunity to put high school age kids that are maybe off in their own little worlds in their own high school program in one room together to network, to have fun, and to also give them another opportunity to showcase their work. It's a great opportunity. It's going to be held over at Faith Lutheran in the Performing Arts Center. It's a great building.
Where can they get more information on this?
Well, we do have a website that's going to be up in about a week, and the website is masterofthehouseshowcase.com. But I would recommend, if you have any questions, or if you want more info or concerns, or if you would like to enroll in the event, you can email Cheryl Rudiger. It's CHERYL Rudiger, RUETTIGER @me.com. That's Cheryl Rudiger @me.com. And I know we have a Facebook page as well, Master of the House. It has all the information and the completed director's guide, exactly all the rules and regulations, anything you could possibly want to know about this event. Check it out there, because we're hoping to make this a tradition every year to do and offer scholarship money to theater programs. And this is something that we want people who maybe don't have like a solid theater program at their high school to be easily able to do.
And they get out there and do it, because $2,500 will go a long way in high school theater.
And the Rudy Foundation is a phenomenal organization.
And they've been doing so much lately with theater production.
Yeah, and so to be able to partner with them on this project, I'm extraordinarily honored. And the actual Master of the House event showcase is going to be taking place April 6th upcoming. It's going to be at 7 o'clock at Faith Lutheran. So check out Master of the House while you're getting your tickets to Putnam County Spelling Bee.
And I'll throw my own shout out for my own show with Sweeney Todd. It's a fantastic show. Any opportunity you have to go see it, please do. Michael Drake has left the production. He's going to be in Boing out at LVLT, but Alex Mendoza is stepping into the role of Pirelli. I'll be doing one more performance for sure, which is a week from today at 2 p.m. at the Onyx Theater. But the rest of the cast, regardless...
it's a phenomenal cast.
Yeah. And the set design by David Sankauer is just amazing.
You know, that guy is a beast. When I did Greater Tuna, he came in and helped on my set.
Where'd you do that?
At LVLT.
LVLT?
Yeah, and so I had the pleasure of working with him, and it was one of those things where, as you guys know, everything with me is minimalist. You know, everything. And so they're like, "What do you want?" I'm like, just throw some light here and give me a couple
tuna here, a can of tuna there.
Yeah, give me a couple benches and call it a day. And they're like, "Sean, you got to do more than that." I'm like, "All right, go."
Give him some costumes.
Yeah, and so I come walking in like 2 days later, and there's this beautiful ranch house built on the stage, complete with this mural on the floor of a giant longhorn steer skull, and it was just absolutely stunning. And I said that my jaw, you know, it's one of those things where I'm more than willing to take all the credit for that. Yes, that was my brilliant design.
I'm so glad you didn't go in there and go, "Nope, get rid of all of it."
I said minimal.
Throw a bucket of white paint on the entire set. You see this white scarf? Do you see this white scarf?
From now on, I'm going to direct in Lederhosen in a white scarf.
Oh no, it needs to be a white scarf.
It's got to be what are those?
Chaps?
No, not chaps.
Chaps? Where'd you guys get chaps from?
Leggings? Jeggings?
No, what do the jockeys wear? They're
those high boots? Pantalones?
Moving on.
The word will come to me at some point when it's absolutely not useful.
I'm going to get a text message.
Jodhpurs.
There we go.
Jodhpurs, the scarf, the glasses.
I hope Steve. I just hope Steve wears a white silk scarf to Next to Normal auditions now. That's what I hope.
If he does, I will go in there and I will rip it off of his neck and go on stage.
That would be.
I'm here to sing for you.
Ah, mercy.
You know, I gotta say, Michael Drake's name has come up twice, and I just have to say that I absolutely love him as a fellow actor. Being on stage with him is an absolute delight. I've never seen. That's not true. He is in a high caliber for me of actors that are very sensitive to what's going on around them with other actors, and he's cream of the crop for me with that. You know, we did a Scottish play together, and
you're so cute saying Scottish.
It's a force of habit. I can't help it.
I realize that.
And he was
how many?
He was Malcolm, and I was Duff, and it came to the scene when Duff finds out that his family is dead, and we had decided that we were on this edge of this cliff, kind of looking over the ocean. So I made a choice to try and throw myself over the cliff, and Michael would grab me and pull me back, and we would have this moment where, you know, I was very invested in what I was doing and needed to be as an actor, you know, and not dealing with the external.
Especially that role.
And so, when he was trying to grab onto me, I was pushing him away. This is this guy who's in the throes of his own angst, you know. And we would always kind of deal with that when I would shove him, where he'd take his hands off of me, and there'd be this stunned moment. And there was one night when I started to push him away, and I wasn't quite getting to where I normally got to in that moment. And Michael didn't let go of me, and I kept fighting him off of me. And there's this little bit of me as an actor is like, "What are you doing? Let go of me!" You know?
Yeah.
And he grabs the back of my head, and he forced my head onto his shoulder, and he hugged me, and I burst into tears. And it was this choice in the moment that, for whatever reason, in those set of circumstances, Malcolm was not going to let him get away and was going to try to comfort his friend. And just changed the scene to the point where we could not go back to what we had done before, that was the right choice. And it was Michael being sensitive in the moment, and he just said, he goes, you weren't there, and I just felt like this could maybe, just how giving that was in that moment to concern himself with what was going on and to make a choice to
I will make sure Michael hears that if he's not listening right now, which hard to say, he could be blowing run-throughs right now, but I will concur. I've had opportunity to work on a few productions with Michael, and he is very he's focused and very
generous.
I was just going to say, isn't it wild? I don't care what conversation you're having. I don't care where you're at and what the forum is. But when you talk about good actors, when you talk about people that relay memorable performances time and time again, you're talking about people who are the most giving and the most generous and selfless actors out there. People who don't think about what this is going to do for them in the long run, what this production can do for the season, they don't care about any of that. They care about the moment, and they care about putting it out there. And I think that is...
and that comes back to what I said about telling the story. And it's unless you're doing a single monologue, you have all these other people. And a production can succeed... It will succeed with everyone, but it can fail by just one person. And so I like to make sure that
the improvist in you will love this.
It comes from improvisation, because in improvisational, one of the core tenets of improvisation is when you're on stage with your scene partner, do your absolute best to make them look brilliant. Because what will happen is you'll have a successful scene, and you will end up looking brilliant as a result.
And that's one of the things that I teach my students, that I say in the workshop that I give, Unleashing Your Superpower, which I've given at Eric's school. One of the things that I tell the kids is, I'll give you the secret to being a brilliant actor. And this is not coming from me because I don't consider myself a brilliant actor. This is coming from men much smarter than myself that will tell you that the secret is to give your performance away, is to make sure that you're concerning yourself with making your scene partner look brilliant, which brings me back to my favorite quote in theater is actually a Del Close quote.
Sure.
It says, I have succeeded where Shakespeare failed. I have created theater of the heart, actors taking care of each other in the instant. And I believe that can be taken past improv, that should be the core of an ensemble mentality. And I don't care if you're doing a 3-person show, if you're doing 3 viewings, which is 3 acts and 3 monologues. That's an ensemble, and they need to be taking care of each other.
And can I capitalize on that comment for a second? Sure. Faith Lutheran did Peter Pan in the fall, and we recently received honors. We've been chosen to take the production to the Nebraska for the national...
You almost said Neverland.
Neverland, to Nebraska for the National Thespian Conference, and we're thrilled to go, of course. So the kids are just beside themselves.
All the more reason for that $2,500 scholarship.
Yay! We received the adjudication back, and I'm always fascinated with how a story is perceived.
Step back for a moment. I'm sorry. How does it's already happened?
Yeah. Well, how
does that work? You filmed it and then sent the.
No, we flew adjudicators in from Nebraska. Well, one in from Nebraska, one in from California.
Because I was like, you're not. The set's gone. You didn't.
No, we didn't.
The set to Nebraska.
No, we have it in storage.
Fortunately,
good for you.
Yeah. So
waste not, want not.
But anyways, I was fascinated because one of the most consistent things they said, because they were nitpicky about things, and I thought, oh yeah, and I love that because I love how something is perceived. You know the ins and outs of turning your undershirt inside out for the show. They don't know that you did that. They don't know that this happened here. They don't know that happened there. But how it's perceived is a whole other reality. And one thing that they kept saying again and again, and it made me, probably more than any other element of the show, the bringing it to the stage, the working with the students, is that they felt that this was truly an ensemble show. They felt that the students loved working with each other and giving to each other and taking from each other. They thought that was great, and they must have said it 5 times. And that made me so proud.
You know, when I did my workshop, I had mad, crazy success with your students. It was amazing. And sometimes when I walk in, the workshop that I do is designed to cultivate the atmosphere, even if you walk in with a group of strangers.
Yeah.
Are you talking Mellow Camp? Or?
Yeah, I was asked to do the workshop for Mellow Camp for ensemble building. And it's designed to work even if I walked in with a group of strangers. And, but to have those students, I almost found myself milking some of the exercises because the beginning portion of it, which usually takes a while to kind of get the ball rolling, it was done.
They were on.
And they were in and connected and done. And part of the thing that I think is fun about the workshop is I always begin, I say, we're going to conduct an experiment. I want to have quantifiable results that you can test. I don't want you to take my word for it.
Yeah, something that you can test.
Yeah, and so what I do is I take one of the kids and I have them stand up in front of the class, and then I say, just stand at neutral, and I say that, you know, if you ask most theater people what that means, they'll say stand naturally, and I say there's nothing natural about what you're doing right now. It's uncomfortable, and so then I have the kids look at them and they begin to fidget and defend, you know, cross their arms in a negative body posture, do the famous fig leaf, etc. And and I point all those things out, and I tell the student, I'm not picking on you needlessly. You're doing exactly what I want you to do. So this is great. So thank you. And then we continue to torture them for a little bit. Then we do this ensemble building workshop, and at the end, I get that same student up, and I have the class look at them. And that person can stand there perfectly fine in front of the group. And I say, what's happened in an hour? What's changed? And I let them answer that. Yeah. And then I say, beyond that, I want you to intend to make that person uncomfortable. Don't change your posture. Don't change your expression. Just purely your intention, and intend to make them uncomfortable. And the person will immediately revert back to the fidgeting and covering. And then I say, now, go back to taking care of them. And then immediately the person will relax. I've seen students start crying in that experience, and it's not a negative tears, it's they can feel that love, they can feel that support. Well, and I tell them, you can affect your fellow actor's performance on stage.
I will tell anyone listening right now, when you get an opportunity to work for Mr. Critchfield, please do so. He will bring stuff out of you that you didn't realize you had in you. The pleasure I had working with Sean during Assassins about a year ago. You take your actors to places that sometimes can be painful, uncomfortable, but so true. And that, I think, is the crux of being a giving actor on stage, is that you're no longer focused on what you're doing, and you're in the moment, and you're true to what's going on with that other actor. You can't have a canned set of responses on stage because it doesn't play true. You have to have that connection
Can I tell you something?
On stage.
You can have an appreciation for timing. You can have an appreciation and a thorough understanding. You know what I mean? Of like comedic, comedy in general. And
I wish I did.
And how to play it and stuff.
I have to do it one more time because it's comedy in threes.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
But it's useless unless you know how to share and respond and take care of one another. You know, you can have a great sense of timing, but if you don't share it.
You know, I completely agree, and I think it's funny because this is going to bring us all the way back to auditioning. Yeah. Which I think that's one of the places where...
we scripted this show.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny because, like, I've been in situations where one of the bits of advice that I got from one of the audition coaches that I had that I really respected was, he said, you know, Sean, I love the fact that you're a giving actor, but you are not bloodthirsty enough when you walk into an audition. And I think that it's funny that that's one case where you have to walk the line, because I'm out there and I get on stage with the other actor and I'm like, I want you to be amazing, and they get the role, you know what I mean? And it's like,
well, but there's a significant difference between the actor on the audition and the actor who's gotten the role. And there does have to be that what's the word, as directors, you know, as far as pacing is concerned, there's got to be that drive forward, there's got to be that
momentum.
Yeah.
Well, and
in an audition, there's got to be that boost of energy to propel you forward to want the role, because the director, again, they can smell fear, and they can smell somebody who's coming in there simply to practice auditioning, if you want to use that term. Yeah. Because, you know, it's like, well, you're not the right type for this role. Appreciate you auditioning.
Yeah. And I think that in most cases that doing that, the going and being a giving actor, will get you the part. But I think that there were cases like in one audition where, you know, I refer to Kirsten a lot because she's such my foil in the best possible way, where I'll get all worked up about something and she'll be like, I don't know, maybe if you look at it like this, and then I realize that I'm being an idiot, you know. But it was finally this one point in this audition where I'd gone and gone and gone, and she said, you need to go in and you need to take it. She said, you've done everything else, and you've shown them everything else, and that's why they keep asking you back. Yeah. But you haven't gone in and taken it. Right. Good. She goes, and it's mean, but go in and take that role from them. That's what you need to do this time.
You have to have that
that savvy.
Well,
that kind of propelled
because
forwardness.
if you don't, someone else does. And with all the shows that are coming up in the next 4 or 5 months, it's a small pool of actors in this town, and some of the roles are very specific. That if you don't go in there with the, I'm going to take this role, and I will poke fun at Kelly Ward and Kim Glover, because they are doing that right now. They're playing against each other, regardless of the show. But you know, it's that kind of, oh, I'm gonna take you down. Oh, bring it on, girl. You know, and it's fun to watch that because, especially with friends And again, Sean, you have the luxury of being known in this town. So if you were to go into an audition, most every director in town knows what you're capable of bringing. So if you don't go in there with, I'm taking this role, I don't think any director in town would expect to see that Sean coming to a audition.
That's the same thing I was talking about earlier when you said that people should know who Glenn Heath is. Here's the
I think so, but you know,
here's
not everyone who knows me thinks so.
That's a good thing, and it also keeps the individual on their toes, because you have to wake every morning as a performer and want to do better, more, learn more.
Stronger, faster, longer, better.
I think that if you, it's one thing to direct, it's one thing to be a coach, a mentor, a teacher, you know, it's one thing to do that, but you have got to want to be a good student every day. You've got to want to learn from one another. There's always somebody on that stage that you're sharing that stage with that you'll learn from. Yeah. You know, and you've got to show them two things. One, that you can do this, that this is a role that they can trust you in, and you got to have that forward momentum, and you've got to take that role in an audition. That's what the purpose of an audition is. But the second thing is you got to show them that you have a field that has yet to been plowed, and that you want to plow that field together. You know,
and I think that's it. Going back to the workshop with Glenn Morshar that I did, one of the things that he talked about was, he said, look, don't be afraid when you walk in there to say, is the writer here? You know, like especially in film auditions, but I think this applies to theater as well. Is the writer here? Because in most cases you have the sides, but you don't know what happened before or after. You know, and you say, what happened in the scene before this? What happened in the scene after this? And I think that where that can be applied to a piece that's tried and true that you should have read before you walk into audition.
Yeah, you better prepare before you audition.
Yeah, but I think it's perfectly legit to say, you know, I know what I want to do with this, but I'd love to hear what you would like to see from this. And ask the director, because most directors that I know would be like, oh, wonderful. Well,
let me hear myself talk.
Let me talk to you for 10 minutes about it. And then in that, the goal for me, the first thing I tell my students is your #1 goal in an audition should be, how do you get yourself from being a headshot and a resume to being Sean Critchfield? How do you make that transition before you leave the room, that you are no longer another person in a pile of papers? You are someone that when they're flipping through, when they see you, they go, oh, that's 90% of the battle.
And reiterate, the director wants you to be cast. The director wants you to walk into the room and be the one. And if you go in, again, you know, the directors in film and television is a lot different than, you know, community theater, but I've seen it, you know, time and again, you know, you walk in to an audition process and you don't even get a chance to audition because they've seen the person they want. And it's disheartening, but you know, that's the reality.
Can I tell you something,
of the process.
We had a chance to speak with Courtney Wolfson, who played Wednesday in the touring Addams Family. Kids got a lot from her. She was great. And what was interesting is that they were on the eve of auditioning for Legally Blonde, our big musical.
For Faith Luke and Spring Show.
Right. And Courtney was in the tour of Legally Blonde. She started with the second wave of ensemble members that went. She started on Broadway with Legally Blonde.
Was she in the ensemble?
Ensemble. Okay. And then she did the tour. And she did the tour and, you know, went away from the tour. And then later on, they called her back and said, listen, you know, the person who plays Elle's mom dropped out. She had to do this. We need you. Can I fly you out to Florida today? And how long? For 4 weeks. Okay. And it's like, you have to understand, you never know what's going to happen in theater. We were talking about the second, the person who did second best. Not the person who got the role, but this person who did second best. You can walk away from an audition not having received the role with still a huge amount of stuff that you have given to the director and the casting people, put in their heads, so that they can walk away from it. Who knows what's going to happen?
Every audition, and
I mean, Glenn, you're a walking, living, breathing example.
Every audition I go into, I plant a seed.
Right.
And a lot has bloomed in the last year alone. A number of very gratifying roles. This past year, getting some acknowledgement for... I'd never look for it. I never want it. I'm very grateful when people say you did a great job. But when the random stuff... And the Broadway World thing is what I'm referring to. That was a random thing. But it was acknowledgement of a lot of effort putting into a performance.
Culmination.
It's funny, like one of the things that I used to joke about, and I remember I got put in my place on this, is that I used to joke that the early part of my career I was simply a pinch hitter, and it was this matter of I kept getting those phone calls. Our so-and-so broke his leg. I mean, can we fly you out tomorrow? You go up in a week. And that happened to me like 4 or 5 times, and it wasn't me breaking legs, I promise. But like various things like that, people would call me up and they'd be like, "This person got cast in a movie, and we need you to come in.
Nancy Kerrigan, Nat Skate, we need you, Sean."
And so and it was literally always like, "Well, when does it go up? In a week?" And I would fly out there and sign my contract and learn it in a week and get up and do it. And the other thing was, early in my career, later I became more known as a dramatic actor, but early in my career I was only known as a comedic actor.
And burlesque.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I would get all these comedic roles, and I remember talking to a friend of mine, actually Dana Snyder, who voices Master Shake on Aqua Teen Hunger Force. We got time. I'll tell you a funny story about him another time. But I was actually we were roomed together at Hope Summer Rep in Michigan when he got that part, and so there's a very funny story about it. But anyway, getting back to it. He and I were talking, and I was just like, I'm so frustrated. I would love to be someone's first string. I don't want to always be the third string. And I said, and I'd love to actually get something with some meat on its bones. And he looked at me and he said, Sean, there's worse scarlet letters to be branded with than dependable and funny.
It's a good point.
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good point.
I'd hate to be branded with it because that would hurt. Dependable, dependable.
That's a lot of letters.
That would hurt.
Just one letter, please.
Just you want to see it?
You want to see it?
No.
Let me show you.
He has a birthmark the shape of the Philippines. We got to take a break. We're going to be right back talking with Sean Critchfield, better known as Nancy Kerrigan, and Glenn Heath. We're going to talk more about auditioning, theater, and all kinds of stuff.
And I'm not taking the action cam with me right now.
Oh, he's going to go to the bathroom. We'll be back.
As a thought, I think it'd be fun to I think because we're coming into home stretch.
Yeah.
But it'd be fun to round robin, and if you want to bring this up, say, if each of us could give one bit of advice as an educator, as a director, and as an actor, if you had one bit of advice to tell someone about auditioning, what would your advice be? Because I think it'd be fun for the listeners to get something that's usable for them.
I think that's great. I think that's a great idea.
And I think that each one is going to incite conversation, and it'll kind of take us through the home stretch.
Love it. I love it.
I always love, especially the three of us, more so, I mean, and the other people as well, but the three of us, I've noticed that, we hit a stride and then it's over.
Right?
We're always kind of like, okay, what's it going to be? What's it going to... Boom!
Yeah, and then we usually come into it about 15, 20 minutes into it, and then...
Yeah?
Then it goes, and then we get the current, and then it's like, oh...
Yeah. You know what Paul said to me, which I listened, I went back and listened, and I realized that I definitely come across like that, and I find it very funny.
What's that?
He goes, you are very good at promoting yourself while you promote others. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, you'll say stuff like, when I was doing this show with Paul, You know, and he's like, and you...
Oh,
and he's like,
I
and
never
you
really
promote-
realized that.
And I went back and I listened, and I'm not trying to do that, but I find it, because Paul, I'm okay. I'm sure you figured out by now, business-wise, that man is a madman. You know what I mean? He
Yes,
is
he
like
is.
self-promoting. He spends, when he's not working, he spends 6 to 8 hours a day on the phone calling and hustling, you know? And so his brain works that way. And for Paul, it wasn't an insult. It was, I'm going to do better about doing what you do. And I don't even try to. It's just that, for me, the
Part
way
of
my brain
acting
works
is putting yourself out there a little bit too, and it's kind of a mindset. You got to be able to. I mean, I tell my students, I said, you got to look at yourself as like a cereal box. I mean, what brand of cereal are you? Corn based, or you got marshmallows in it?
Corn based.
People are going to want to know what the prize is on the inside. They don't know. You can put a picture of it out front. You can wear it on your sleeve, but you got to be willing to get them. There's going to be all kinds of wheat cereal. What's going to make them want to choose you?
And
You know, you got to be willing to market yourself.
I agree, and the funny part for me though is that I'm not trying to do it. I think that for me the way my brain works is that I always want the context to the story. I don't ever want to say Paul said. For my brain, I always want to be like, when we were at blah blah blah, then Paul said. You know, what
You're
I mean?
telling a
It's
story.
just- yeah, that's the way I want. Who, what, when, where, why.
Short battery.
I
I don't know.
We
what to
talked
expect
about
for 20
how,
bucks.
from a different perspective, educator, director, actor. Let's all give one piece of advice and go round robin of what to do at auditions. A piece of advice.
If you could only give one bit of advice to an auditioner, what would your advice
You guys
be?
have had a little bit more time to think.
Well, you can go last.
A question. Did you ever get a Crazy For You DVD?
No,
Okay.
I didn't.
We'll let you go last.
All right.
So you can think about it. But we figured because each one's going to incite a little bit of conversation,
Well, the only one thing. Huh? All right.
and it
I
should.
mean,
bring us
I'm
into the
trying to think of it right
conversation.
now, too. And
What were you going to say?
No, I'm thinking we could probably go around 3 or 4 times with that, because there's more than one thing. So just thinking of the one thing to say.
Yeah, but this,
whittling it
it's the
down.
elevator pitch. Like if you, you know, if they're headed through the door and you can stop them and say, "What is it?" You know. You know yours?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I got mine.
Short battery. You can pass. Wait. You can pass heart conditions to people you love? I'm completely lost. Betty White, you amaze me.
Boom! Welcome back. This is Curtain Call. I'm Eric Bob. How you doing there, folks? How you been?
What are you looking? Oh, I was gonna say, what are you looking at? I thought you were like watching the TV, and it's like.
How you
there's
doing
nothing
there,
on.
sir? Do you have the camera on me, or am I just
Yes,
looking into the...
Yes,
camera's on.
I actually do have the camera on you right now.
Well, welcome back. We are in the studio with Sean Critchfield and Glenn Heath, and we were talking about auditioning in general. And I thought, actually, we were talking during the break, Sean and I, and we thought maybe it would be a good idea to kind of just go one at a time, maybe from different perspectives. A directing perspective in Sean's case, an acting perspective in Glenn's case, and an educational, kind of an educator for students perspective in my case, about what would be maybe the one piece of advice to give somebody as far as auditions are concerned. I mean, there's a million things that you got to keep in mind. There's a million different things that you can... I mean, there's books on the subject that just written pages and pages of what you can
And
do.
there's common sense things too. Be prepared. Know your material.
Yeah, and I think this is just something kind of a worldview notion that we would offer.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking it as, you know, if someone were walking through the door to their audition and you could grab their shoulders and look them in the eye and give them this piece of advice before they go off to be somebody.
Right.
What is that thing that you're going to give them?
And may I start?
Absolutely.
Do you mind?
Please.
Okay. From it, now you have to understand that the majority of my directing has been in a high school level. I have done community theater. I've done college theater. I've done things of that nature. But the majority of what I do has to do with a secondary education student. And so I'm going to base it in that, but I would argue that it's pretty general for everybody. And my one piece of advice, I think, is remember why you do theater, okay? You do theater because you love to perform. You feel like you have something that you can offer. You've been blessed with a certain talent. And remember that an audition is another opportunity to perform, okay? If you can remember that more than half of your career is going to be spent putting yourself out there in the hopes that you get the role, okay? If you can remember that auditioning is still performing, okay? And what you're doing in that audition that you mentioned earlier, that's your 2-3 minutes. They're affording you that stage, the spotlight, their full attention.
Restate that. It is the actor's 2-3 minutes.
It's the actor's 2-3. Did I? Was that?
No, I'm saying that needs to be.
It's very, very
stressed
true.
Because
it is
every
your time.
Every eye in that room will be focused on what you are offering and what you're able to give at that moment. That is a captive, willing, participatory audience.
You hope.
Okay? Yeah, you hope. And so here's the thing: engage them. You know, give them everything you have for the reason you're there, because you love to do it. And if you can remember that, no, not every audition is going to go your way. Not every part is for you.
Most of them don't.
And I would argue, once you get to a professional level, most of them don't. You got to go from door to door. You got to do it. But if you can remember the joy that brought you to the audition to begin with, that joy of performing, the reason why you're doing that and not accounting, you know what I'm saying? If you can remember that, and that audition, that 2-3 minutes, is a performance, enjoy it. Then that will get you, when you do bite it, when you do totally eat it at the audition, or it's perceived that you did, that will get you up onto your feet and brush off that dust and get you going to the next one. That's what will do it. If you can kindly remember that you're there because you love to perform, and perform. That's what an audition is. That would be keep that in the back of your head. That's very important.
Sean's taking notes.
I think, absolutely. I think that's beautifully put. I think it's an incredible point. You know, I think, and it comes back to that idea of this is your time. It belongs to you.
Yeah.
And you need to own it as such, you know. And there's this mistake that I think that a lot of people make when they approach that, when they say, you know, well, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to pretend I already have the part. No.
No.
Don't you ever be arrogant.
No.
I'm working with, I'm just going to go ahead and shout her name out and give her a shout out just in case she's listening, but I'm coaching Sydney Story right now. And I think Sydney is a very, very, very talented girl. And one of the things that I keep saying to her is that if I could preserve this in her, and it you know, goes to what you're saying, is she loves it. Man, she just loves to perform. And you can see it. She lights up at any opportunity, you know, and I think you're absolutely right.
Well, you can pick people out on stage who you know love what they do.
Yeah,
it brings a certain vitality, energy, sparkle,
I saw a production,
effervescence.
I saw a production of King John.
You're talking with jazz hands.
I saw a production of King John, and I remember seeing there's this guy in the corner, and he was one of the guards, and he no lines, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm doing finger quotations, the spear carrier.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And he was listening, and it was the point when they were talking about whether or not they're going to execute the child, and you could see that he never said a word, and he'd made up his mind that if they tried to execute that child, he was going to try to stop them. And you could see this whole conflict with you know, disobeying orders, putting his life. They were going to murder him when he tried, but he couldn't stand by. And it doesn't come to fruition, and he never had to. But in that moment, the show was not called King John for me. It was called The Guard Who Was Going to Defy King John. That's what that play was. And it was amazing.
Well, there's a famous actress who had said something to the extent of, you know, like she had a small bit part. And there's no small parts, or whatever the quote is, I don't know. But she had said something, you know, that's the story of this nursemaid and her try, and it was nothing about. God, I wish I could remember the quote and not be so stupid right now.
No, I know what you're saying.
Like where she turned Romeo and Juliet into her.
Yeah.
And there's also that idea that you always have to remember that statistically, at any given point in time, at least 15 to 20% of the audience is looking at you. You know, it doesn't matter where you are.
I love that notion because it makes you. I play this game, and then I'll bounce it back to you for your piece of advice. Sure. I play this game with my students. I love this director's note. I love it. I say you have to understand that at any moment during the show, I should be able to take a picture of the stage, a still photograph, and I should be able to know what's going on in that moment from that photograph. Anything that you can't tell what's going on just from the staging and the look of the scene doesn't belong in the show, because you only have an hour and a half to 2 hours to tell the story. So every moment of that needs to have, focus, status. You need to be guiding the audience as to what to do in that moment.
Equity of movement.
Yes, very nice. And
that's my biggest problem on stage, directors in Vegas. I have happy feet.
Well, we should spend a whole thing talking about Glenn Heath and his crap.
No.
Well, what's your one piece of advice, Sean?
My knee-jerk reaction was to say that my one bit of advice would be take what you want, but I've already kind of discussed that ad nauseum. Yeah. So I'm gonna say that it was the moment for me, and I think that this is true, sitting behind the director's seat, that I now look for in actors in the workshop that was the most important to me. He said, he just stopped and he said, cast your minds. He said, it's a crisp October morning. A man is out riding his horse. He turns a gate to make a leap on his horse that he has made 100 times. He begins the leap. The horse stops short. He goes over the front of the horse, lands on his neck, and Christopher Reeves will never walk again. And he says, and I would venture to say that that man has more money in his bank account than anyone in this room. He's like, I may be wrong, but I think it's a safe assumption that he probably has more money than anyone in this room. And he would not, it wouldn't take him a moment's hesitation if God or higher power, whatever that figure is, appeared and said, I will give you back your legs, but I need every cent in your bank account, that he would not hesitate. He would say, take it, please take it. I didn't realize until today what it means to walk down the street. I didn't realize that it is cause for joyous celebration to get up in the morning.
Walking down the streets and event.
To walk, to hold hands with a friend and walk down the street is worth more than everything. Is worth more than everything you have. And he said, you are an explosive ball of life. You have everything you need in yourself right now to be a joyous person. And he said, and if you are not good enough without the role, you will never be good enough with the role. And he said, so first and most importantly is when you walk into that room, be a joyous ball of life. And that is huge to me. That's huge to me. I tell people at the beginning of my auditions, I say, let's end the suspense right now. I'm going to tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the people that are having fun. If you get up there and have fun, it's going to go a lot further with me than anything else. So let's calm down right now and just enjoy ourselves. So that's it. Just enjoy the fact that you're there and that you get to be part of this experience and that you're alive and that you have everything you need to be alive, and get out there and have fun. Enjoy it.
I really like the construct there, especially if you need the role to make yourself. Hey, repeat that, because I need to. If you're not good enough without the role,
you'll never be good enough with it.
And
it's so
profound. I mean,
wow, I like it.
And I don't take credit for that. I take credit for my own notions of making sure that when I walk into an audition that I'm running, that it feels more like an acting workshop than an audition. That's very important to me, and that stems from his workshop.
Do either of you ever do group auditions where you audition everyone at the same time?
I always try to.
Because I know sometimes you really can't have everyone sing their song at the same time. Though that would be hysterical.
I find that time usually dictates that it's hard to do, but I agree with him. I try to do it as often as possible, because it's a give and take. It's a give and take in auditions,
which
too.
is why
it's a shared energy.
I love doing improvisation
Yeah.
as part of an audition, simply because you get to see who's giving and who's not.
And I think, you know, what you said earlier about monologues is right on the money. I approach hating monologues as an auditioner and as a director for a different reason, and it's that acting is reacting, and you're never giving that actor an opportunity to react. You know, and that's why I always am like, okay, talk to me, drop it for a second, let's work. You know, let's get this, let's cold read, and I always want. You know, and I will challenge them, and I will ask for what I look for, and I'll say, look, I don't think that we need to do this in the show this way, but give it to me this way. Yeah. You know, and I always try to give my actors the opportunity to do their best work. That's very important.
Can I tell you something? And I'm not going to spend time on this at all because I want to give it to you.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to tell you something.
Very generous of you to give me that time.
It was very interesting. I had this theater director, Gary Rigatini, and he was a big, you need to do monologues, you know, I did a play, The Children's Hour, and Dr. Joseph Cardin, and when I auditioned with a monologue, and it was very true. There's very little time, or a very little offering in a reaction. You know, you have to just give, and it's a moment in this character's story that has some sort of emotional turn point that he has to say what he has to say here. And I remember during the audition, Gary was maybe in the 4th row or something, just sitting there kind of watching, you know, like this. And then at one point during my monologue, he went like that. And I remember, it didn't give me a start, but I remember, boy, oh boy, did it throw me. Like what I was giving. And I remember that I think he was messing with me. Mm-hmm. But I walked away from that going, I kind of appreciated that. Mm-hmm. Because when you play catch with somebody, you're throwing it back and forth. You know what's going to come your way. Yeah. You just need to catch it. But if you don't know what's coming your way, how do you react to that? You must.
Or you don't know that somebody's playing catch with you and they just throw something in.
Right.
You know, I would probably be like that. I'd do that I'd be a jerk director because
Can I tell you something?
I'd probably have a cap gun or
a
starter pistol, and they'd be doing their monologues and be like, BAM!
Yeah, but I'll tell you something, Glenn. I didn't walk away from that mad at him.
Oh, no.
No, I agree. I think that he afforded you an opportunity to react in a situation that was that you have to facilitate for yourself what's going on with the other person. You're reacting to what's going on in your head, and that's one of the things that I work extensively on is, okay, you have to do this monologue, so let's choose a reactive monologue. Let your auditioner watch you react to the figure that you've created in your head. In the interest of time, I really want to hear what
and
Gary
I will say, you know, just a word or two about the monologues. My issue with them is that in modern theater, there's really not a whole lot of monologues performed, and they have their place. I absolutely believe that if you're auditioning for Shakespeare, do a monologue, because if you can't do the prose, the text, if you can't interpret what the words are really saying, then the director needs to see that. But you know, if I were to audition for one of the shows coming up, Music Man, this summer, and if Steve Huntsman asked me to come in with a monologue to audition for Music Man, I probably wouldn't even go to the audition to start with, because I don't see the place for it in a lot of music.
Look, what do you talk? What do you talk? What do you talk? Do you talk? Do you talk? Do you bicker?
Pick a little, talk a little, cheap.
Obviously, Glenn cannot handle the text.
No, he can't.
I will crib once again from my friend Rance Wright, in that if I had the opportunity to grab someone from, and I tried to do this actually, but to tell them that they are good enough, that they have the ability, and it's kind of a self-motivating thing, but you have to know that. If you don't know that you're good enough, and it kind of follows what you were saying. If you don't think you're good enough without the role, then you'll never be good enough with the role. To expand on that, my idea, and Rance's idea, is that you are good enough. The director wants to cast you. The director absolutely wants you to walk into the room and show them who you are. And you are good enough to do that.
And I would argue your spouse or significant other wants you to. Your friends want you to get that role. Your fellow colleagues in the field of theater. Your dog was. Why wouldn't you be your own cheerleader? why wouldn't you want you to do it? So why defeat yourself before you
actors can be very self-deprecating.
It's true, but defecating what?
That too. Well,
we're dirty.
Self-defecating. Yeah. What a way to end the show, Eric.
But I think that actually works really, really well, because I think that that's that moment of conditioning. And one of the things I say is self-correcting behavior. That, you know, if you don't really believe it, you have to fake it until you make it. And if you constantly repeat it to yourself, if you constantly reiterate, you constantly
it's an affirmation.
think it,
Sure.
Eventually it will become true. And so if you're having that moment of, you know, knowing what I talked about is great, but if you're fearful moments before you walk through that door, and you just take the moment to refeel that and say, I'm good enough, before you enter in, is brilliant.
And there's there's nothing wrong with being fearful. It's how you react to that fear.
Right.
Do you turn it against yourself and put up the barricade that prevents you from showing who you are, or do you work through the fear and have that extra burst of energy
Yeah, I often say to my students, begin with who you are right now. In most cases, there's no reason that your character can't be a little afraid. You know, there's no reason that you can't ladle in a spoonful of afraid. I can't think of a monologue that isn't the case, where you can't spoonful in one little ladle of afraid.
A lot of monologues are very, they are those internalized feelings that are not being said to anyone in particular.
And I say, when you walk in there, don't resist your fear, utilize it.
I think something's wrong if you're not a little scared when you audition. Something's going on.
So.
Well, listen, we do need to wrap up. Guys, it's been a pleasure talking with you once again.
As usual.
If you guys are listening for the first time, or if you just happened to come by the station recently, this is Curtain Call. We have it every Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m. We have it's the only Las Vegas live theater talk show. We try to highlight the community, try to highlight some stimulating conversation regarding the craft of theater and acting in general. We hope that you'll join us every week. If not, visit us on Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a list on Facebook. And go to YouTube and subscribe to our archives. You can watch us on YouTube. We have videotaped footage of every episode.
And we're always looking to bring people into the studio to talk with us. So if you're a part of the theater community in any capacity whatsoever, drop us a line on Facebook. I hate using that as the sole means of communication.
We need to get our website.
But it is somewhat ubiquitous in that most everyone has access
Most
to it.
people have moved away from web pages to Facebook.
Yeah, so if you're on MySpace,
bye.
Yeah. Call me. I have concerns for you.
Well, I'm going to ask everybody that is a regular KSHP listener to tune in this week. I am going to provide some tickets to 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee at Faith Lutheran this weekend and next for the radio shopping audience. If you're interested in attending, please go to faiththeatercompany.com. That's faiththeatercompany.com. I hope to see you in the audience for Putnam County Spelling Bee. Go see Sweeney Todd over at the Onyx. Go see Glenn. He's performing next Sunday. He's a phenomenal actor. If you haven't seen him on stage,
you can sit next to me and Eric on Sunday.
We will be there ourselves. Yes. For our producer Chris Scott and everybody here at KSHP that takes such great care of us, we really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next week with Curtain Call. Take it easy.
I will ask the director of the tour if they want to come in and talk about tour.
I would love that. I would love that.
Maybe get a couple of members of the cast.
Great. We're always.
Randy.
To be honest with you, I just didn't have time to contact people. I would have probably called a few people. We probably could have gotten some Sweeney people to come in if they wanted.
This was fun. This is an
you know what? I like this every once in a while.
Yeah, I think it's just fine to.
And there was no lack of dialogue.
We were just talking about the fact that it takes about 15 minutes for the three of us to kind of figure out what
get our stride,
and then it's over.
But there's a nice there's a very very strong level of comfort that makes it so much easier to just shoot the shit and go.
I completely agree. So our should we let him get in here and talk about our secret meeting out here?
Yeah.
Let me.
I'm gonna go use the restroom.
I'm done.
Okay. So.
Oh, are you?
Stop recording.
With proven experience, our
Thank you, sir.
agents are licensed to contact the IRS immediately for you. And get you instant help to relieve you from
Did it not record?
I recorded each of the individual cameras. I never pushed the record button.
Oh no! Well, we'll have like enough that we can do a slideshow with like a few things.
No, I had 3 cameras going, so I'm just gonna have to.
Oh no, dude!
I may just do 4 separate windows and just be like, fuck it.
That'd be kind of fun. It's like the Brady Bunch version.
I can't believe I didn't push the record button on the damn computer.
Sorry, bro. Look at my wife. See? Look what she wrote. She's so good to me. I'm so proud of you. I love you. Oh, can I have my jacket? That'd be nice. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. All that you do for us, Chris. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you for the cookies. Those are really good.
Oh, yeah. My wife's awesome. I love her.
Just want to make sure I didn't.
So is she the chef too, or is it you, or both?
You know something? Kind of both. I love breakfast food and like lunch, like grill stuff, I suppose. She's more of a bake cook. You know, she bakes things, and you know. But you want an omelet? Oh,
So,
I got your hook up.
oh, okay, so you're
I have an omelet. Waffles? Forget it.
Wait, not
Pancakes?
taking an egg and putting it in the toaster. This
No,
is the oven. Okay.
no.
We're not talking toaster strudels.
No.
Those packets of frosting.
He forgot to record, so we have it on each of the cameras, but we don't have it in one place. So
That's awesome.
Oh.
that's awesome.
Are you going to be able to pull the sound, do you think? Or?
Oh yeah, the sound's on all 3 cameras.
Well, and Chris gives us the
yeah,
CDs.
I only feed the sound from this, because this one is the stronger HD camera. So the sound feeds directly from this one, so no matter which camera I switch to, the sound is always coming from this. So the sound is consistent. However, me pushing buttons all night tonight did absolutely nothing. I was watching it, and it was switching, but I had never hit the record button.
You did a great job, though, with those buttons.
That's hysterical.
Shut up.
That's hysterical.
The only difference is you're editing on the fly with that box.
I'm editing on the fly
Way
with
to go,
this box.
Swinny.
Oy.
Nice
Way
job,
to go,
Swinny.
Swinny. Wait, I like that.
I'm going to take the S off of that.
Well, I've got to break all this down. So
You want to just sit in here and tell them while we're... So,
I'm presuming you guys are collaborating on a...
kind of. It's nothing. We're submitting a bid to Super Summer Theater next year.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be kind of this kind of collaborative beast of Sean Troy and Angela Chan as a musical director.
Okay.
So,
well, I had heard that you were looking at bidding. So
yeah, and
We weren't sure what we were going to do, and we were kind of sussing out
round-tabling ideas.
That's
fantastic.
So, is this a thing? Should I plan on being here?
I would love it if you were here as often as you can. I mean, if you can't make it one week, that's great. But I would love it if you could. I mean, if you could.
Okay. Well, no, what I mean is, like, can I tell people that I'm the new